should I stand up here and saying, you know, I tip my hat to the new Constitution? That's what I know from the Who, but I don't consider myself a rock star or any of those type of things. And I think it's so important that you remain humble, no matter what is going on around you, because this is truly one of the most important fights for the future and the legacy of this great constitutional republic that we live in. And I want to echo one of the things that John said, and it really is an honor to be back here with the Palms West Club. I have not been here since 2008, so you are not forgotten. No matter how far out west you live, we know that you're out here, we know how important you are. But it is right that we have to have a synergy that happens in 2008. It is not just about the Congress. It is also about the Senate. It is also about what happens in Tallahassee. And understand something that, you know, we took the census this year, and that is going to account for the redistricting that comes about in 2012. And if we're not careful, how many people here live in Alcee Hastings District 23? Okay, you see what happens if the gerrymandering is against you. So we need to make sure we have the right people in the governor's mansion. We need to make sure we have the right people in the state legislature. But all politics does come down to the local level, be it your county commissions and your city commissions, your villages. This is an important time that each and every one of you has to rise to the occasion. I think that's why you have such a great club. And I just want to thank you, Paul, for stepping up and saying that I will take charge of things.
Florida Democratic Party? I'm sorry?
Because you have an important
I'm not-
voice that
it's a
cannot go
public event.
unheard. Now, what do I think is happening right now with our election? Well, it's
and we
obviously
paid the
simple.
fee.
I'm running against an opponent that's going to use the exact same type of negative attack ads that, you know, that's what you use when you don't have an issue. When you can't stand on principle, when you have nothing that you can present to the American people and the people of Congressional District 22. But you have my word about one thing. I will not lower myself to that standard. That I will continue This campaign will continue to talk about the issues. We will continue to talk about the solutions for the issues that we see facing the United States of America and each and every one of you, for your children and for your grandchildren. That's the most important thing for me. A lot of people have always said, why would you go and throw yourself into this thing called politics? Because it is nasty. I'll have to tell you something. I've been shot at a few times, almost blown up, jumped out of airplanes in the middle of the night at 800 feet. So if someone wants to call me a name, it really doesn't get my attention. And I think that that's something that they're starting to learn, because they are so wanting you to respond, to get into that back and forth. Well, I'm not going to do that, because sometimes if you just
Just for
ignore a
future
problem,
knowledge, you can
it
tell
will go away.
whoever's in you
And that's
that
what
I'll be
we're gonna
making
do
sure
right
that
now.
nobody comes
We're
near
going to make them
you.
go away.
I mean,
It's true, you said you already paid,
yeah.
but for the future, you'll get your money.
I mean,
I
they
want to
could.
talk to you tonight.
I can argue with you right
about
here,
what I think
but
is
for the
so
future,
critical
tell them
for
not to waste
us
their time.
as a
I
Republican
mean, they will,
to
but.
understand.
Oh, I'll make sure.
It is about principles of governance. It is not so much about party anymore. Because one of the things that hurt us in 1994, when we had the people that came in and swept in the Congress and contracted with America, within 12 years, by 2006, you didn't recognize those individuals. You didn't recognize the people that you sent there. You didn't recognize what they stood for. See, now is the time that you must understand that it's not so much about your party, but really, how do you see government interacting with the individual? That's the most important thing about this country. And when you go back, each and every one of you has to start educating yourselves right now. Because when you get into these philosophical and ideological arguments with the other side, you got to be able to go in and quote people like Locke and Hobbes and Rousseau and Montesquieu, because those were the people that gave our founding fathers the principles of governance which enabled them to write this great Constitution. See, I believe that it is about a conservative ideology. It is about a conservative philosophy. And if you go back and you study, that was once called classical liberalism. Classical liberalism was based upon the preeminence of the individual. And that's what makes the United States of America what it is today. Because if you understand those precepts, conservatism is basically setting the conditions for the success and the advancement of the individual. Understanding that interaction between government, between life and society, that adheres to a foundational principle, a foundational constitutional principle called liberty. And we have forgotten that. Because what's happening right now in the United States of America, we're not respecting the individual anymore. We're coming up with this new thing called a collectivization of our country. We're starting to group people together, group them together in groups that we then pit them against each other. So what I want to discuss with you tonight, or what I see as the 7 principles of conservative ideology. So as you go forth, you need to understand that. You need to understand how that relates to the issues that we are facing here in the United States of America. The first principle is limited government and lower taxes. There is no doubt that when you study the United States Constitution, and understand something, we're a constitutional republic, and not a democracy. The democracy is the process by which we elect our representatives. But being a republic, that means that the rule of law is the thing that is preeminent. That rule of law is the Constitution. And the Constitution was written as a limiting document on what government can do. If government gets too big, you move too far to the left. If government gets too small, then you have anarchy. They found that sweet spot right in the center. They said the most important thing is to respect the rights of the individual. And that's why the Constitution could not be ratified until it had those first 10 amendments called the Bill of Rights. But see, what we have going on in the United States of America right now is a government that is legislating a social welfare state. They will tell you that it's because of the General Welfare Clause, or it's because of the Commerce Clause, or it's because of the Necessary and Proper Clause, when they don't even really understand what those things mean. That's where we beat them, by understanding the Constitution, understanding what those clauses are, going back and studying the Founding Fathers, reading the Federalist Papers, and understand what Madison was promoting with this great Constitution. Because we've got to get government back acting within those 5 basic mandates of the Constitution. To establish justice, to ensure domestic tranquility, to promote the general welfare, not divide them, to provide for the common defense, to set the conditions for liberty for each and every one of us. That's what they have to be doing. Not what we see them doing right now, where they're legislating more and more of your freedoms away from you. Because each and every time a tax is levied against you, that's a little less freedom, that's a little less of your liberty that you have. See, if we're not careful, come January the 1st of 2011, the American people will see the largest tax increase that they have seen in quite some time. Going back to the times of Eisenhower, when after Coolidge and Harding, you had a marginal tax rate 24%, then it goes up to 83%. When John F. Kennedy took over, you had a marginal tax rate of 91%. In January of 2011, you could be looking at from a 70 to 75% marginal tax rate. Because if you don't keep those tax cuts in place, if you allow the marriage tax credit to go away, if you allow the child tax credit to be cut in half from $1,000 to $500, if you allow capital gains tax to increase, dividends tax to increase, death tax to come back, the alternative minimum tax population goes from 4 million to 28 million. Ladies and gentlemen, the United States of America will be upside down. Because how many of you sitting out here, the members of the production class, the producers, what will you do when you turn around and you see that 75%, 3/4 of your earnings go out the door? How can you build a future? How can you build a legacy? How can you pass on to future generations if that be the case? You're looking at the destruction of the United States and the Constitutional Republic come January 2011 because they will violate that first principle of conservative ideology. The second principle is security from external and internal threats. If you understand what happened when the federal government sued the state of Arizona, they were totally outside the mandates of the Constitution. Because Article 1, Section 8, Article 1, Section 8, Article 1, Section 10, Article 4, Section 4, and the 10th Amendment granted Arizona every right to do what they did. And if you can go to the Border Patrol websites, you will find right now there's a war going on our southern border. It is not just against the narco drug state that's emanating from Mexico. But we know now that Hezbollah and Al-Qaeda are paying these drug lords to funnel in Islamic terrorists across our border. See, there's a category called OTMs, and OTM stands for Other Than Mexicans. That means all of the jihadists from the Middle East that are coming into the United States of America. Prayer rugs are being found in these base camps. Dictionaries that translate Arabic to Spanish to English are being found in these base camps. You understand that already Hezbollah has a major base of operations in South America. Hugo Chavez and Ahmadinejad